Hey guys, Joe here doing a video on another system. I has the addiction, but not in the way you would think. Let me get to it and we will enjoy what we're talking about here. This system, for those of you that are computer enthusiasts, will notice that it is in fact an X99 system. For those of you that are super keen, you will know that that is an Asus Rampage 5 Extreme board, housing a Intel i7 5820K. It also has Crucial Ballistics RAM, as well as not one, but two MSI GTX 970s in SLI, and an EVGA 850 Be Quiet power supply. Now, before you guys, and by you guys I mean my folks, go nuts, let me show you exactly what we have here. This is the listing, if it ever comes down. I'm upgrading my motherboard to a workstation board, so I'm selling my fairly used extra powerful board along with two MSI GTX 970 cards. Asking price is $400 for all items. Board was minimally used. That is absolutely true. In fact, I took the entire system apart. I did get him to throw in the power supply as well as 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM for a total of $500. That is an insane deal because an EVGA 850BQ is a $100 power supply and 16 gigs, it's only 2400 megahertz RAM, but still it's 16 gigs of RAM. If you go to Micro Center right now, I think it's $139 for 16 gigs of RAM. So I got all of that plus two GTX 970 4 gigabyte gaming graphics cards. If you recall, from a previous video, I showed you Frankenputer, and I also told you that I sold Frankenputer. The reason I did that was because, number one, I like to build stuff and then get rid of it. Number two is because this came up. I actually did a quick sale on the i7 in the board in order to compensate for what I'm going to be paying for this. Now, these graphics cards I'm not keeping. Everything else I get to keep, but these I am not. Let me show you why. This is the listing for the two graphics cards. As of right now, it's at $425, 4 bids, and the current high bidder has a like 9,000 star rating, probably a minor of some sort. And yeah, so I'm going to get $425 back so far, plus $18.85 shipping so far, and that's with 2 days and 13 hours left. This has been up for less than 11 hours, and it's already jumped from $300, which is where I started it, to $425. Which means if you factor in that I got $75 for the i7 processor and $85 for the board, I got $160 for those two. Plus the money I'm going to get off of there, I'm getting the X99 board, a 5820K Haswell E processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and an 850 modular power supply. And I'm getting paid at this point $100 and something. And all I have to do is throw my 770s back in there. As you can see, I put the cooler back on because I fixed the fans. And now I'm going to run that one as stock. And as soon as I get the replacement fan for the other one, I'm going to run that one at stock too. So I will have just some stock 770s in there. So yeah, I mean, you could sit there and ask me why I would do something like that, or you can sit there and go, wow, he actually did pretty good. Now, I'm still waiting for my internal USB cable for the H100. So that is a massively undersized cooler for a X99 platform, especially since I have it overclocked to 4.3 gigahertz right now. So what I did is I took two Corsair static pressure 140 millimeter fans, because they push a lot more air, and I put them together, sandwiching the radiator. I just use zip ties. This is a tip I learned from Linus Tech Tips too. If you use the big ones, you don't even have to have like that ugly loop going, so you can barely tell, except for up there, of course, because they have to stay on there. But once I get the cable for the H100 and I can control the pump speed, then I will be changing to the dual radiator setup. And I'm also going to be moving my hard drives because currently they're all just hanging because I don't like the mounting style. In fact, I have this one out because I'm out of straight SATA cables. I'm using 90-degree SATA cables and they don't fit. And if you are a Thermaltake case fan, you'll also notice that I pulled all of the bracing out of it except for the hard drive cage, and that's going away because I'm actually going to mount a fan back here to blow cool air directly onto the back of the socket, which will in turn help cool down the power delivery and the chipset. So that will be nice. But yeah, this is an amazing board. It has M.2 capability right there. Of course, it has 8 DIMM slots, so if I just find cheap 16 gig kits, I can just keep populating that. However, 5820K can only take 64 gigs of RAM. Doesn't have enough PCIe lanes. So the guy I bought this stuff from, he's a cool dude, pretty laid back. When we were originally talking, he was like, okay, because he wanted a little bit more for the RAM, and I talked him down. And I said, I need to see it work. Obviously, I'm not going to go and pick up a $500-600 system without seeing it work. And he says, tell you what, I won't take it apart till you're here. Fair enough. So I go over to his place, and he still has it powered on. I can see it working, and I could see the kind of stuff he was doing with it, and he was gaming with it, which is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And he then allowed me to take it apart because he doesn't like to do the work. He doesn't build them himself, I guess. Whatever. And he told me what he was doing was he was going to buy a 7820 to build a processing workstation. And I was like, well, okay, because he actually had this system since that processor was first released. Sorry about that. Got completely off topic when I was talking about the Asus stuff. The BIOS updates that have been provided by Asus and Republica Gamers will actually allow this board to take a 6950X. So someday way down the line, if I happen to find a 6950X, I could pop that in there and it will run with 128 gigs, which would be freaking awesome. So the fact is, I have no problem giving up these cards. I am not a big fan of MSI. I've said that before a few times and I still stand by it, and it's personal preference. It's the same reason why I don't like Apple. I had a bad experience and I just won't go with them. Sorry if you thumbs down the video for that, whatever, that just means you know what kind of person you are. But the money these stupid things are worth, and again, is it cryptocurrency that's done it? I'm not 100% sure why, but my local micro centers, all 3 of them within 2 hours of me, have less than 50 cards in stock, nothing over a 1060. These stupid cards, these are 970s. 970s are on Maxwell, for Christ's sakes. They should be $120 a piece, maybe $150 a piece. Not at this point $212 a piece. And again, that's going to go up because the fact that I have 3 different bidders bidding within 11 hours of posting them means these are going to go up quite a bit. I would not be surprised if these sell for closer to $500, and I will put that in an update when that happens. As for performance in this system, it does really well. With the cooler being the wrong size and not being able to cool it enough, obviously I have to limit the overclock. I will say that I got a stable 4.65 gigahertz overclock on it, which is over a gigahertz overclocked. At that point, it was pulling a 1310 on Cinebench, which is actually faster than a Xeon. Can't remember the exact model, of course, because the computer's off. I can't just pull it up. But it beat everything in the standard Cinebench score for this style processor, which means it is 3 times faster than that i7 860 was. And I got paid to take it. How do you say no to that? You can't. Couple of numbers. Running SLI on the 970s, CSGO was maxing out at 298 frames per second. I'm guessing that's the max FPS on that game. I tried every level, and a lot of levels I would just walk into a corner and point my gun at the corner and not do anything, and 298 seemed to be the max frame rate I could get on any particular level. GTA 5, if I left everything at normal, I was getting about 120 to 130 frames per second on 1080p. That's in SLI, by the way, not in single card. So as you can see, here we are in GTA 5. I have both cards running at 1405 megahertz. I cranked the fans up just because I don't want to have any problems with those cards before they're gone. But as you can see, in downtown, running around, well over 100 FPS, and this is at 1080p with all the draw distances out, blur, pretty much everything on that could be on. And downtown, regardless, I don't think it drops under 90, which is pretty damn good for a couple of old cards. Thusly, I ran everything at very high. Set everything to very high. Most of the sliders were maxed out except for water and reflections. I don't care about that crap. And I was still averaging about 95 frames per second. And again, that's a 60 hertz panel that is overclocked to 75 hertz. So as long as I'm getting over 75 frames per second on average, you don't see any frame droppage, no lag, nothing. So yeah, that worked really well. In Firestrike, obviously the graphics score was pretty okay. It wasn't super great. In fact, I had to back the overclock on the processor down because the whole system was getting too hot. But look at this. How can you say that's not a workstation style setup? All those are SATA connections, and it has multiple USB 3.0. I'm using the bottom ones because. And look at all the PCIe slots. Now that's only a 28 PCIe lane chip, but again, because I flashed it with the most current BIOS, I can put any gosh darn thing on there I want. Even if I just run with like a 56, even if I were to just find like a 5960X or a 6850K, I would get the full 40 PCIe lanes. Obviously a 5960X has more cores, so I would rather have that. But still, the reason it's sitting in here is because I don't have another case that can take an EATX board outside of the H440, and I don't like the side panel on the H440. So that will have to be modified. So yeah, in conclusion, I'm happy I have another X99 system. I'm never going to get rid of this one, he says facetiously, because he'll probably get rid of it the second somebody makes him a good offer. And all I have to do really is upgrade the cooling and the graphics cards, and that will come in time. So that's it. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below. Feel free to subscribe. You can click on that button. Over here will be a couple of videos. I'll link a couple other techie videos like is a 770 still a good card, or is a 750 Ti still a good card? You know, all that fun stuff.